What's up, fellas? In the second video of the day, we're going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks. This is a team that increasingly is getting very, very interesting. They've had some weird points throughout the season, but I think now is certainly a time we need to start talking about this team in terms of what they could do in the postseason, in terms of their potential threat level to some of the higher seeded teams in the Western Conference. And yeah, all those things are what we're going to be talking about in the second video of the day. But really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload twice a day, every single day on this channel, so it's the most consistent NBA content on YouTube. If you're new here, by the way, what's up? My name is Tucker. You can also leave a like rating on the videos as well, and you can check me out at various socials and a Linktree link down in the description below. With those things said, let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks. So this is a team that is playing better lately. They've had some weird points throughout the season, but I think now it's becoming clear that they could possibly be a threat as we get closer and closer to the postseason. And the reason I bring that up is these are the top 5 teams in the West right now, and in order in the standings: the Jazz, Suns, Clippers, Nuggets, and then the Lakers. Of course, the Lakers dealing with some injury stuff. One of those teams, has to lose in the first round, by the way, because only 4 teams advance. So one of those teams is going to end up being kicked out of the playoffs after one round, and then you could potentially be looking at 2 of them if this Mavs team continues to play the way that they do, or the way that they are, and continues to be as much of a threat as I kind of think that they are right now. And most people are thinking that the finals representative from the Western Conference is going to be amongst those 5 teams that I mentioned: Jazz, Suns, Clippers, Nuggets, Lakers. And I'm not saying that Dallas is a team that's going to be representing the Western Conference in the finals. I'm just saying they could potentially play spoiler to one of these teams in the top 5 to prevent them from even being knocked out by each other. So here's why Dallas is potentially more dangerous than you think. You always want to look out for teams that might have a suppressed record for one reason or another, and their spot in the standings doesn't necessarily represent how good or bad they've been throughout the season. And for this Dallas team, as well as honestly for a lot of other teams, you could throw the Lakers in here, you could throw Boston, Toronto, a ton of teams in here. Because of the weird circumstance of the season as well as injuries, there's just a lot of variability. We've talked about this in the past, and I think Dallas is certainly one of those teams. They've dealt with protocol stuff, they've dealt with a ton of injury stuff, but since the All-Star break, since like February, there have been signs of this team trending up in 2 specific areas. One, Kristaps Porzingis statistically, whether it be shooting percentage, whether it be points, rebounds, all that stuff, he's trending up post All-Star break, starting to get healthier. All those are good things. The other part of it is Luka as a whole, but most specifically the thing that everybody knew was holding him back in the beginning of the season, and there's 2 things. One, not being in great shape. He's kind of played himself into that. But 2, the 3-point shooting. It has been up in a significant way over the last month and a half or so, and that has really, really allowed him to step into, just kind of a different space in terms of, he had the stats already, but he's really elevating his team once again in a way that I think we've seen him do last season as well as the year before. And it has put this Dallas team in a situation where you start thinking about them as an interesting postseason matchup for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is a situation in which Dallas gets into a postseason series with a team that just doesn't know how to deal with Luka. Luka puts the team on his back, has a great series, and knocks out the Nuggets, the Suns, the Jazz, the Clippers, probably not the Lakers, in the first round of the postseason, depending on where they end up. And all of that makes this team very, very scary. Now, the counter to that would be they're still not very good defensively. They're bottom half of the league defensively. In terms of defensive rating right now, I believe they are 18th, which obviously is not great. But we've talked about them in the beginning of the year, and their offense was kind of hovering right around that mark as well. And they're up to nearly a top 10 offense, despite all of the stuff that was happening to them in the beginning of the season, injury stuff, protocols. And we know based off last year that this team can be a historically good offensive team, albeit with a different roster. Josh Richardson in place of Steph Curry. I almost said Steph Curry on this roster. So yes, there's variability here, but ultimately this is a scary, scary team when it comes to the offensive end of the floor. And even if you do have issues defensively, if the other team has an off shooting night, a couple of nights in the 7-game series, and you're this good offensively, you can absolutely be dangerous. So all those things, I think if you're looking to check boxes of like what could be a dangerous postseason team, you're looking for a record that potentially is worse than you would have expected it to be because of injuries, because of protocol stuff, right? A team that is more talented than their record shows when they're fully healthy, when they're ready to go. Check that box. A team that has an absolute superstar that can take over a series that potentially the other team could just have no matchup for. I think you check that box. And then a team that is trending up. And I think that is certainly Dallas over the last month and a half or so. They're still going to have up and down points. Every team is. It's a weird year. But for the Mavs specifically, I like, if I'm a Suns fan, if I'm a Jazz, teams that like the reason I'm not so worried about the Lakers here, and to a certain extent the Nuggets as well, because their success last year in the bubble, is the teams I would be worried about against Dallas are ones that are not used to this kind of success, right? So like the Suns are example one of that. We know the Clippers have had postseason issues. The Jazz, they lost in the first round last year after being up 3-1 in the series. Like those teams that, don't really know what it's like to go on a deep playoff run, could potentially get caught off guard by this Mavs team, and they're kind of underestimating them. They're thinking, oh, they're not that great. KP has a great series. Luka is incredible in a 7-game series, and all of a sudden you're looking at yourself being knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. So I'm interested to see what you guys have to say down in the comment section below. Are you scared of this Mavs team at all? If you're a Suns fan, if you're a Jazz fan, Clippers, Nuggets, Lakers, are you worried potentially about the Mavs? Obviously, if you're a Lakers fan, pretty much everything revolves around, well, are we healthy, right? Assuming all the teams are healthy in this scenario, do the Mavs scare you? They kind of do, for me, depending on, what team I'm a fan of, because of the Luka factor. And, they're going to have issues defending at certain points. They're not going to have a ton of great individual defenders throw at certain guys, but Carlisle will throw a zone out there. He'll do some weird different stuff to try and make it work. They've got added spacing as well now with the addition of JJ Redick and Melly as well. And so all those things kind of point to me towards a team that is dangerous. A good coach, a veteran coach, a guy in Luka that is certainly not going to lack for confidence. KP kind of adds to the ceiling of this group potentially, where if he's playing really well on both ends of the floor, it really kind of raises the overall level of this group. And it's a team that I certainly would be afraid of. Now, am I guaranteeing that they're going to upset a team in the first round? No. Is it possible that they get swept in the first round? Absolutely. Anything can happen. But I just think that if you're looking at that West, I think most people are paying attention to that top 5. And then as you go down, if you had to pick a team amongst Portland, amongst Dallas, amongst any of the other teams kind of fighting for those last couple of spots, I would be most concerned for me about Dallas. Now, the last counter to all of this would be, one, there could potentially be some health issues with KP. They slide further down the standings than you would think that they would. And then all of a sudden, they're looking at like having to play in the play-in game and then going into their first round, and maybe that becomes an advantage, like the play-in game in the NCAA tournament or something. But ultimately, it's like, okay, you might be talking about them as a dangerous team, but they could be knocked out of the playoffs if they lose 1 or 2 games just in the play-in tournament thing that we've never had before, at least not in a regular, normal season. And so, yeah, that would kind of be the final counter to that, right? But for me, I would be afraid of Luka. I'd be afraid of the Mavs. They're a team that certainly, if they're making shots and their offense is flowing, they're going to be a difficult matchup for a lot of different groups. The team that I keep coming back to here in terms of like potentially having an issue with this Mavs roster would be Phoenix. And it's not because I don't believe in the Suns. I think the Suns are really, really good. I just made a video about this. But it's not like these guys know what playoff success looks like unless you count the bubble last year. Chris Paul, is of course, a great player and has proven himself a lot in big games. Had some postseason issues himself, but like the Suns organization as well as the players as a whole, like they don't know what Game 7 is like. Yeah, they go 8-0 in the bubble, but like they don't know what a big time Game 7 is like. There's some guys on the roster that do, Jay Crowder and things like that, but that roster specifically would make me nervous. The Nuggets have always been kind of wishy-washy, and even a team like the Jazz, as good as they've been, there are certainly some holes in that roster as well that I think you can kind of point to and say, hey, could they potentially have an issue with Dallas? Porzingis, forcing Gobert to guard the whole floor. Could that end up being a problem? All those things are things to consider with this Mavs roster. And again, the point is, I just think they're dangerous. You guys let me know down in the comment section below if you agree, if you think this is a dangerous Mavs team, if you're like, nah, Tuck, there's nothing to worry about here. They can't guard anybody. It's all just Luka and KP. They don't have the supporting cast. I'm not saying you'd be wrong if you make that argument, by the way. I'm just interested to see what you guys have to say down in the comment section below about a potentially, in my opinion, dangerous Mavs team as Luka continues to heat up from 3-point range. But yeah, that is going to be the end of the second video of the day, and I thank you guys very much for watching. If you missed the first video, we talked about some DeMar DeRozan free agency stuff earlier, so kind of an all-Texas video day today, so go check that one out. If you guys missed it, you can check out various socials for me in a link tree down below as well, where I've been streaming over on that other live streaming platform 5, 6, 7 times a week for months now. If you guys want to come hang out and talk to me, outside of these videos, it's a great place to just kind of interact in a more casual spot. Just ask me questions you guys might have, outside of the videos, outside the comment section, outside of Twitter, all that good stuff. But yeah, with all this thing said, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Like a video if you enjoyed it. Check out more videos from me. The box is on screen. And yeah, I will see you all next time.